up, everybody? This is Alex Edwards. Welcome to Alex Edwards Vlogs. We're back with week 4 predictions, and we're going to go over first with our first 3 weeks of predictions, which I must say I didn't do as bad as I thought I would. I actually improved week by week. So we're going to quickly go over those, and then we're going to get right into week 4 predictions. We don't have any time to waste. Be punctual and quick with this. So here we go. With the first week, we did pretty decent. We did 10-6. Some of the games that I thought were going to go the way I thought they would definitely did not, as I assume a lot of you probably understand with a couple of the pretty known games that went a little sideways for some teams. So first we have Dallas and Philly. Of course, Dallas was looking pretty decent in the first half of that game. It's just they could not stop that Philly run, and Jalen Hurts just had his way with that Dallas defense, especially losing Michael Parsons. They had a lot of trouble stopping the run game, and just had trouble stopping either Saquon or Jalen Hurts running the ball, and it just didn't go their way. That ended in a 24-20 loss. I didn't write down all the scores because I just didn't have the room on paper, but I wrote down some of them. Then there was the KC game versus the LA Chargers, which I lost. Speaking of, I won the Philly. I took Philly and I won that one. Then we had the KC game versus LA Chargers. I picked KC. I obviously lost that game. Was not expecting the injury to, excuse me. I was not expecting that injury to, oh my god, I'm having a brain fart already today. The person that Travis Kelce ran into, I can't believe I'm just forgetting off the rip. I have to freaking Google the name already because I done forgot. Haven't been up that long, so I'm shaking it off. Xavier Worthy, that's who it was. Running as Xavier Worthy in week 1. He is suited to come back this week. He's looking like he's looking better. He's been practicing, so he might actually come back this week. So I lost the KC game because Chargers came out and just won that game with a much stronger looking team. And then next we have Tampa Bay versus Atlanta. I took Tampa. I won that game. So far, all these games have been close, but Tampa just had the more experienced quarterback, more weapons on offense, and the defensive line really came to put a lot of pressure on Michael Penix. So I did win that game versus Atlanta, picking Tampa. Next game, we had Cincy versus Cleveland. I picked Cleveland, and they lost by 1. Cleveland's defense is nothing to mess with. Burrow definitely got pressured a lot, but at the end, they just came out with a game-winning field goal, and it sealed the win for Cincinnati. So I lost that Cleveland game, although I feel like if it was one play difference, I would have won that game. Next game of the Week 1 schedule was Indy versus Minnesota, and wow, shocker, nobody saw coming. Minnesota gets blown out 33-8 to Indy. And by golly, that was craziness. And actually, I'm just going to pull out the Week 2 schedule and the Week 3 to give you the scores anyways, because it just makes more sense. But yeah, the Indy game, nobody saw coming. Daniel Jones just went pretty much perfect, scored on every drive, broke a bunch of freaking statistical records for teams in general in the new era, and wow, they just had themselves a hell of a game. So good on Indiana Jones there and the Colts and all those people. Tyler Warren looked good. Jonathan Taylor kept scoring. It was just an amazing game for them. Wow, couldn't believe it. Next game we have was Jags versus Carolina, and Jags did what I thought they would do and just comfortably handled the Panthers. It was 26-10, and Panthers just didn't get any offense going. Their offensive line just couldn't keep Bryce Young from getting sacked. He was pressured a lot. He looked uncomfortable. And yeah, that just made it hard for them to get anything on the board at all. The next game we have New England versus Las Vegas. Oh, and by the way, I did win the Minnesota game because I did pick Indy. I won Jacksonville because I picked Jacksonville, of course. But at the next game, New England versus Las Vegas, I didn't expect New England to come out and really keep the pressure on Geno and the Raiders. I thought the experience of Pete Carroll and the experience of Geno would push that team a little further. I expected more from Ginty, and they just really locked down the receivers and Brock Bowers. It just nothing really progressed for the Raiders in Week 1. The Raiders lost, and I had picked. I mean, the Raiders won. Excuse me, I was so wrong. I'm reading that backwards. The Raiders won that game by a touchdown. Drake May looked better, but I don't know what I was talking about there. So they just eased out a win. Although I can't say the same for the rest of the 2 weeks they had here, because they just got an eased out win from New England. They almost lost that game to New England. New England definitely should have won that game, and I did pick New England, so I lost that game. So I had lost that game to Las Vegas. Next game is Phoenix versus New Orleans. I just never expected New Orleans to win that. Um, their team and their lineup of quarterbacks has just been questionable since the off season. They just didn't have anybody. I honestly thought they were going to go out and get at least Kirk Cousins or somebody, but they didn't, and they did not win. They didn't lose bad. They had the same score as the New England Las Vegas game, but Phoenix has had a more experienced team. Kylo is a little more of a better quarterback, and they just have some better people there to get the job done. Benson looked good. Connor looked good. And unfortunately, Connor just got hurt. So he's out for the season. So now it is all Benson. Next game we have is Pittsburgh versus the Jets. And that was a surprising game that stayed close most of the time. And Aaron Rodgers going back to face Aaron Glenn's Jets and kind of get a little bit of a revenge game there, and it ended up going Aaron Rodgers' way. They only won by 2, so they had like a game-winning field goal, I believe it was, to seal the deal on that. Surprisingly enough, the Jets actually put up a fight for that game. They ended up losing Justin Fields like a week or 2 later. I believe it was last week or the week before. Yeah, it was the week 2. They ended up losing Justin Fields week 2, and it hasn't been as good since. Although they did almost beat Tampa, so I just put that on top of Aaron Glenn being a very good coach coming from Detroit. So he's getting that team to win somehow, some way. He's making them fight to the end. So good on him on that one. I took Phoenix to win. I took Pittsburgh to win, and both of them won. My next game is Giants versus Washington. I did not see Russell and the Giants having much success versus a more stout team with Scary Terry and Jaden Daniels. And yeah, I just thought they were still riding the high from last year, which they ended up doing. So they beat the brakes off of them 21-6. Only scoring 2 field goals. Russ still looks very rusty, no pun intended, to the new system he's in. Moving a lot's going to do that to you. So that did not end up going the way, but I did. It went up my way, and I took the Washington to win, and I won that one. Next game is Denver versus Tennessee. Uh, Tennessee has a lot of things to be working out. They're in the middle of a rebuild. They have a very decent person at quarterback. If they can protect him and call good game schemes, Cam Ward can be very good in the future. Bar that he's always losing to my Jags. But besides the point, Cam Ward can be very good. Is it gonna be on this team? How long will it last with the Tennessee Titans? Who knows? But on that note, if he can get some more pieces around him, I just see them developing him a little bit better. Hopefully, will it be on Brian Callahan? Who knows? That is a sketchy subject at the moment because he has been kind of under fire for game calls and all that stuff. So yeah, Denver ended up winning that game. Bo Nix looked pretty decent in the very beginning of that, and he just looked like the better quarterback. You had a better overall plays being called, and oh man, I forgot who the hell the freaking coach of the Denver is right now, but he called a better game, and they got more done more often than Tennessee was able to get anything together, and it just didn't go their way. So Denver won that game 20-12, and I had picked Denver, so I won that game. Sorry if I sound a little groggy. I'm still kind of shaking off the cobwebs. It slept longer than I wanted to, so trying to get this done as quick as possible. Um, Next game, San Francisco versus Seattle. Wasn't expecting all the injuries they got hit with in the first 2 weeks. It just shook me. I couldn't believe it. Uh, it's just 49ers cannot seem to catch a break. Every year they get hit with injury bugs so hard that just for a playoff caliber team, it just makes it damn near impossible for them to get there. And I couldn't believe it. Although they did pull out the win, um, I honestly say just to purely on Christian McCaffrey being who he is and just being able to push that team, keep the team spirits high, and just keep them pushing to the end. Good on him. Brock was hurt, but I believe he did finish the game. So he did his best to keep himself in it and try to keep the team going until the end, and that seemed to work in their favor because they did beat Seattle. Seattle was very iffy in the start. They did get a few scores. It just wasn't enough to down the San Francisco defense, who ended up taking a hard hit last week, losing Bosa. So that has gone San Francisco's way in week 1 and week 2. I don't see that continuing. Um, yeah, so hopefully after we play them, they can get somebody back to kind of help them. Nick Bosa's out for the season. I don't see how this is gonna fare for them very much, and it might be a rough year for San Francisco. But if you're a San Francisco fan, I do like them a little bit. Good luck to them. That's because this is not looking great for them this year so far. So I took San Francisco. I did win that game. Next game we got Detroit versus Green Bay. Uh, Detroit had a very rough first start. I feel like they didn't. They had their offensive line was looking a little sleepy on the very first week. The addition of Michael Parsons to the Green Bay Packers probably changed up their game scheme and their planning, the strategy a little bit for the first game, and it seemed to show because that defensive line for Green Bay was just getting after them play after play, putting a lot of pressure on them. They did get a couple scores, but it just wasn't enough as Green Bay just balled out. Jordan Love had a great game, and they secured the win Fortunately, I did pick the Detroit Lions. They did not win. That did not come to fruition. So I lost that game. Next game was Houston versus the Rams. I was still riding the suspicion that they were as good as they were coming out of the end of the year last year, winning the division. Unfortunately, that did not happen as they only scored three. It was either a touchdown and a 2 point conversion, but I think it was just three field goals. And if you're only kicking field goals, unless you're playing a horrible team, that is just not going to get you the win. LA didn't fare much better. They did win by 5 points, but that was just giving the team of a team like LA, who's a lot better than that, and they only got 14 points, but they still got the win. So good on them from that. But I just see if Matthew Stafford can't get another couple winning years, I think he might be done very much soon. I don't see that lasting very much longer. So I picked Houston. I did not win that game, and unfortunately, Houston has been on a slump since that. They have not won a game. Next game would be Buffalo Baltimore, which was a fantastic Sunday night game. That ended up going 41-40. It was just a back and forth, and it was just an absolutely crazy show of a game. Both teams were just lighting up the scoreboard. They had Josh Allen making plays left and right. You had Derrick Henry putting up almost 170 yards. You had Lamar getting out constantly and creating plays. It was just a absolute chess battle of a match, and it was actually a very great game. I picked Buffalo in that game. I always pick Buffalo in a lot of these games because I see how Josh plays, and he just has this winning thing about him that he doesn't sit down and call it quits too early. He fights to the very last second, and then pulls it off because they won by 1 point. So I picked Buffalo, and I won that game. And the last game of the first week was Minnesota versus Chicago. That was my wife's computer. It was Minnesota versus Chicago. Closer than I thought it was going to be. Being on the fact that JJ is a new quarterback, getting his feet wet, starting to figure out the offensive line and stuff, and starting to figure out his schemes and his plays. And Chicago put up a fight. It's just they made a little bit one too many mistakes, and that really kind of gave they gave JJ and sorry, I'm still sleepy. JJ and the Vikings offense still a little bit enough put forward to win that game. I just see that the fact that they lost JJ to ankle injury, I think it was, he's favoring that a little bit. So it might be hit and miss for Minnesota. We'll see how that goes. But for week one, I didn't do too bad. I did 10-6. Definitely should have been like 12-4 because a couple of those games just were not what anybody was expecting to happen, especially with Indy and especially with Detroit. That game could have gone both in a bunch of different ways on that one. Let me wake myself up here, some coffee. On to week two, we had Green Bay versus Washington. Green Bay did win that game. I got the scores up here. So Green Bay won that game 27-18. Once again, that defense really had Jaden Daniels struggling in the pocket. He got a lot of pressures, and they wound up losing that game to the Packers. Week two was Baltimore versus Cleveland, and that was the game where they exposed Joe Flacco's age to me, that they just could not stop the Ravens' offense from scoring. Ravens D put a lot of pressure on Joe, and he just looked uncomfortable that whole game, and they won that game by 41. I had Green Bay in the first game and they won. I had Baltimore in the second game and they won. Third game, I had Jags over Cincinnati. And even though they lost Joe Burrow, we just absolutely shot ourselves in the foot. And we threw away a very winnable game. We should be undefeated right now. We are not. We are 2-1 because we let Chase Browning come in there and absolutely embarrass us. Um, our defensive line couldn't get to him. Our corners let way too many open plays happen and just did not seem to be very tight coverage on the Bengals defense, and we just faltered so hard in that ending game. We had that game won. Excuse me, pinch my nose. We had that game won, and we just let it slip. Too many old ways still slipping in for the Jags. We really need to tighten up on those losing in the fourth quarter because that's what we're doing a lot of the time. I had Jags. We lost that game. Then there was the Cowboys and the Giants. That was surprisingly very competitive. I did not see the Giants putting up such a fight against the Cowboys like they did. Russell threw for over 400 yards. But that seemed to be about it because after that, he had a horrible game and now he is benched. So that was the one game he came and put on a show. But after that was pretty much the hoorah because he is now not starting anymore. Jackson Dart is now starting for the Giants. So they could have won that game, but they didn't. And if they won that game, he probably would still have his job, but he does not. I picked Dallas to win that game. I was correct on that one. The next one, you had Detroit versus Chicago, and Detroit just absolutely put the beating on Chicago in that game. Still letting Ben Johnson know that Dan Campbell still the top guy around there, where he came from, and letting him know who the boss still is, even though he's on a different team now. Detroit won that game 52-21, and what a rally that was. I did pick Detroit because I know better. I know better to mess with an NFC North rivalry, especially with Dan Campbell at the helm. Next game, we had Miami versus New England. I had Miami coming off a bad loss and winning one. I did not get that right. They lost a very winnable game to New England, and New England won 33-27. Drake May and Kevin Butte and Stevenson really put on a show, even though the next week they had struggled a little bit more. But they actually put on a nice divisional win against the Dolphins, and that seems to be the only one they have so far. We'll see how this week goes for week 4. Excuse me. Water time. Alright. And the next game we got is San Francisco versus New Orleans. Like I said, New Orleans still very shaky. To me, they're on the bottom half of the league. They're just not the team they used to be. They're very much so in a rebuild, and they're just trying to figure out who they are as a team and who they can put as quarterback that's going to get them wins. Because I don't know about Shu, and I don't know about Spencer Rattler very much. They're both very hit and miss type quarterbacks. Sometimes they play good, sometimes they play absolutely horrible. Slew hasn't really got a chance. We beat them pretty good in the preseason, so it's just like from that, I didn't see them winning a lot of games anyhow. I took the San Francisco 49ers. Somehow, with an injury-riddled team, they're still winning by the grace of God. Somebody up there really loves the 49ers because they're 3-0 with an injury-riddled team. It is amazing. Next game we got was Buffalo versus the Jets. I'm not crazy. I took the Buffalo Bills, and the Jets didn't do anything. They lost that game 30-10. And just Justin Fields got hurt that game. at the very end of it. He was wobbling. Nothing's going the Jets' way, and I just feel bad because they've had so many bad years, and it's not looking good this year either. And took Buffalo. Uh, Next game is Seattle versus Pittsburgh. I took Pitt, and shockingly, Pitt had a horrible game. Uh, Aaron Rodgers threw a couple of interceptions. Somehow, Seattle and Sam Darnold just found the Steelers number and they put it to them because they won 31-7, and it was a very shocking game. I honestly thought the Steelers would have won that and be 3-0, but they lost. Probably due to their own mistakes on like turnovers and not getting third, fourth down conversions, and they let that one slip to the Seattle Seahawks in that one. I took Pitt, and I lost that one, unfortunately. Next game, we had the Rams versus the Titans. Like I said, that one was another game where the Rams came in there and they showed their veteran and the camaraderie of that team and how good they are together because they won that one 33-19. Poor Titans still have to try to figure out who they are as a team and how to get Cam Ward to be comfortable and get some scores in and not be running around getting sacked a whole lot like he's been getting. He's had way too many sacks in the first 3 weeks, and that offensive line needs to figure out what they're doing. It was just a gashing from the Rams. I took the Rams. I won that game. Next game is Panthers-Cardinals. I took Phoenix because, one, the same thing with Cam. Carolina has a lot of pressure being put on Bryce Young. He's not getting the pass completions he needs to be. He's not giving the pocket he needs to have to put on a good game. And the Panthers' offensive line really needs to step up, and they could definitely win a lot more games. But you just have somebody like Kyler Murray, who's a mobile quarterback. When he needs to get it done, he'll get out of the pocket. And you just don't see Carolina's defense really being able to stop someone like that, getting play after play, conversion after conversion. And that's why they won. I did pick Phoenix to win that game, and I won that game. Next game was another crazy one, which is like the weird sleeper team of the year so far is Indy versus Denver. I picked Denver. I lost by 1 point because apparently Denver cannot keep the Colts from kicking range. They had a very winnable game. It's just that Jones just keeps pushing the Colts on this magic streak of winning, and they got a winning field goal, won by 1 point, and they have just been the shocker team of the year. It is amazing. I picked Denver, and I did not win that game. The next one, it was KC versus Philly, and after what I saw of the first game from KC, the injury they got to Worthy, the mismatch of not being on the same page with, Kelsey and Juju and a whole bunch of stuff. The running game was iffy. I couldn't pick the Chiefs again. I just felt like they were kind of in shambles after that game, and they were kind of like trying to figure out who they were again. I took Philly. Luckily, they did win that game slightly by a field goal on the part of just being able to push those little 1 yard conversions on fourth and third down. That's what got them the win. It was very chippy in that game, but Eagles just always seem to find a way to win that last little bit, and they got away with one against the Chiefs. The Chiefs were definitely having a hard time, as you saw Andy Reid and Travis having a little chat there on the sideline. They were definitely trying to figure out why we are being embarrassed the way we are, because they are definitely a team that is better than that. And I picked Philly to win that game, and luckily for me, they pulled out a win. Next game was a shocker for me because Minnesota just could not do anything. JJ had a very bad game. He had a lot of missed throws. He had a couple of interceptions, and Atlanta's defense just put the pressure on Minnesota. And after a week one win that they barely won over the Chicago Bears, they got embarrassed and they got checked by the Atlanta Falcons. Atlanta won 22-6, and I lost that game on my prediction. The Monday night games, I had Tampa over Houston. That was scary to the end because it looked like Houston had it, but Baker pulled off his magic. He went into the kitchen and started cooking, and he just if nobody else can do it, Baker said I'll get it done, and he converted a couple of key drives, and he finally got the win. And they won by 1 point in a game that Houston definitely should have won. I picked Tampa Bay, and luckily for Baker, he got me the win. In the last game of week 2, Las Vegas versus the Chargers, and after what I saw the Chargers do to Kansas City, I felt I was crazy if I picked the Raiders, and it came. I seem to have been right because the Raiders lost 20-9. Couldn't get anything going on offense. Geno still seems to struggle with trying to figure out his offense and trying to get plays done. He tries to be mobile sometimes. I just feel like he's better set just trying to stay in the pocket and trying to get short drives done, because that ended up costing Las Vegas a game. And now they're 1-2. I had Chargers and I won that game. So for week 2, I ended up doing one win better. I went from 10-6 in the first week to 11-5 in the second week, and by golly, the third week I had it all figured out because it's starting to slowly see who the better teams are, and I did way better this week. Let me get a little sweet on my coffee. Alrighty. The first game we had was Thursday night, and it was just a shambling for the Miami Dolphins, who just are having a hell of a time figuring out how to win. Of course, I took Buffalo because Buffalo has just been on a hot streak. They're looking like the team to beat right now. Them, and the Chargers just seem to be the winning teams that need to be reckoned with in the AFC. And I'm not looking forward to playing either one of them. I don't remember. We have the Bills on the schedule or not. Chargers, maybe. I don't remember. I don't know. Can't remember at the moment. But I took Buffalo over the Dolphins, and I got that win. The next game, holy cow, I had Atlanta because I just like how Michael looked the last game. No, it did not go how I planned. Wow. I don't know what happened, but they got demolished by the Panthers. 30-0. Panthers seem to just have a luck of the Irish for that game because, boy, shutting out the Falcons like they did was just crazy. I did not see that coming. I don't understand what happened on Atlanta's side. They just could not get anything going. That was just such a crazy game. I couldn't believe it. I had taken Atlanta and I was dead wrong. Next game, I was going off the high of the first 2 weeks for the Packers. And then we had a slew of crazy special teams plays and block punts in multiple games. And this one was decided by one because the Browns blocked a game-winning kick pretty much for the Green Bay Packers. And then the Browns proceeded to kick one of their own, and that was that. The Browns won the game, kicking a field goal after blocking one on the Packers, and nobody saw that coming. Wowzer, wowzer, wowzer. What a special teams week we had last week. So crazy. I had Green Bay, and I did not win that one. Next game we had Jacksonville versus Houston, and as they're famously known as the Cardiac Cats, my heart was pounding that whole game. Multiple times, I did not know if we were going to keep the lead, and somehow our defense was just showing up and putting it to CJ and keeping him uncomfortable because somehow we got the win. On that last beautiful play in our side of the field for the Texans, Josh Allen got behind the line and got his hands on the mitt and forced a beautiful interception to pretty much ice the game for the Texans. Jaguars pulled out a win. Let's ride their high to another win. Hopefully, thank God that we don't have to face Bosa. I hope he heals well. But man, it is a godsend that we don't have to face him this week. So I had the Jaguars. We won a beautiful game. Next game was Minnesota versus Cincinnati. And Cincinnati did not come off riding the high that they had when they beat us. Because Minnesota just, once again, put a beating on another team. Winning 48-10 on a game that was just so one-sided. Browns just had way too many interceptions and fumbles. Isaiah Rodgers had himself a 1 in a 10-year game of just balling out. Multiple fumble recoveries, multiple beautiful defensive plays, and that really did it for the Browns. They had 4 different turnovers, and pretty much Vikings took every bit of advantage of that and just put it to them, and they won that game. And I lost, being crazy. Oh, actually, wait a minute. Okay, no, I did have Minnesota winning that game. I thought I had Cincy there. Okay, never mind. So I wasn't crazy. I did have Minnesota winning that game. I thought I had picked Cincinnati before. I guess I had changed my mind during the week before that game because I have it written down. I have Minnesota in this game. I forgot about that. Okay, so I did win that game. Luckily. Next game, Pittsburgh versus New England. I just didn't see Rodgers losing 2 games in a row. Mike Tomlin would, be on the ass of that team all week, preventing that from happening because he's just that kind of coach. He's gonna make a statement about losing a very winnable game. And I just didn't see Rodgers coming out and having 2 bad games in a row. Especially with a team like New England, who is still trying to find their namesake and trying to win again and try to solidify that new offense and that new team of a lot of guys that are very young. Mike Vrabel is a very new coach. He didn't have great years in Tennessee, but I see him becoming a way better coach in New England. Luckily, I picked the Pittsburgh Steelers. They did come out with a win. However, they're being very hit and miss right now. They're not a solid Pittsburgh team, but they're a Pittsburgh team that can pull out, must wins at the very last second to come away and feel better about, losing last week and then be getting onto a better foot forward going ahead in the season. Excuse me. Allergies always kicking my ass, no matter what time of year it is. Next game we have is Philly versus the Rams. Like I said, I'm having trouble counting out the Eagles coming off a Super Bowl win. I always tend to favor them a little more. I picked Philly. Luckily, they got out a win, even though they just struggled so hard in the first half. It looked like Rams had that game in the bag. Somehow, Philly goes in there and pulls out some Eagles magic, and they come back. They get on some key offensive plays, some good defensive plays, and they just pulled out a win out of the hat. How they do it, I don't know. They just that Lombardi Magic. They rub that trophy before they come to a game, and it gives them the oomph they need to get that win and come out with another win, another good game at the very end when they're struggling in the beginning or struggling at all. So good on them. I did pick the Philly Eagles to win. I won that game. Tampa Bay versus Jets is next. I took the Bucks after coming back against Houston and winning a crazy game on in the fourth quarter. Um, they surprisingly had a bit of a fight with the Jets and the Bucks in the year. Tyrod Taylor had a decent game. He made a couple of very good plays that kept them in it for the long run. There was times when I thought the Jets had this in the bag. They blocked a field goal, and of course, being the Jets, even blocking a field goal, they couldn't secure the win. Baker came back on some key fourth down drives and got them into the kicking range, and they did kick a game-winning field goal. So good on them, because I took the Buccaneers, and I won that game. So the next game we got was Indy versus Tennessee, and being on how much Tennessee has struggled, I had to take Indiana because it's just Jones is riding that high of just being an incredible quarterback on a new team. Colts have it all figured out right now. Jonathan Taylor's having great games, and they just blew him out 41-20. And the Titans really need to figure out who they are going forward, or this is going to be a very long season for them. I had picked the Colts and won that game. Next game, we have Washington versus the Raiders, and like the Colts-Titans game, it was just very one-sided. Gino had an absolute horrible game. Could not get on the page with his wide receivers or tight end Brock Bowers. Genty couldn't get a run game going. Washington just came in there and stomped him out. Jaden Daniels, Scary Terry, Zach Ertz just have a hell of a game. Put up 41-24, and Washington gets the win. I had Washington picked, and so that was good for me. Next game was Denver versus the Chargers. Denver had a very winnable game. You know, Bo Nix had a couple of good drives where he could come out and get a decent win. But it seemed like he got kind of injured, so that faltered out, and he started to struggle on offense after dealing with I believe it was the calf injury or an ankle injury, and that seemed to put a stunt in the growth of winning that game. And the Chargers just eased out a win. Herbert just seems to be way more consistent this season so far. But hopefully Bo Nix can heal up and they could be a more winnable team, a winning team, because I just see Bo Nix being a very decent quarterback over the next few years. They have a great team around him. Sutton is a good wide receiver. What the hell is his name again? Denver's coach is very good. He had winning years in New Orleans. God, I am blanking on the name right now. I'm sorry for that. I'm just forgetting right now what the hell his name was. Horrible names that happens for me from time to time. Let me Google that real quick because it's gonna bug me. Sean Payton, that's right. Thank you. I can't believe I forgot that name. But yeah, Sean Payton's a great coach. He's a winning coach. He knows how to win. Super Bowl champion coach. And he'll fix that Denver team right up. And they'll have a decent year. If Bo Nix can stay healthy, they'll be alright. Next game. Actually, I had the Chargers win that game, so I won that game. Next game was Seattle and New Orleans. This is another one of those games where the team that had a more, congealed team that knows each other better, just they came out and put a beating on them. Seattle won 44-13. New Orleans is struggling very much, and they just need to figure out who they are. They have Dennis Allen as their coach. They have two very young quarterbacks who are not very grizzled yet. They haven't really done a lot of winning, so they don't really know what to build off of. And I just feel like they need to either sign somebody, trade for somebody who can get in there, get them more hyped up, get them on the right page, and get them off this losing streak because they have not won a game yet. I did pick Seattle to win that game. I won that. Thank God. Seattle is halfway decent sometimes that they just pull out the games they need to win. Next game I have was Dallas versus Chicago. Uh, After what I saw last week from Dallas beating the Giants, I thought they would come out and be able to put on a show again. Boy, was I wrong, because Caleb Williams found that college person, football playing lifestyle, football playing finesse he had. Excuse me, that was the word I was looking for. And he put on a show, man. Caleb Williams looked absolutely good. Rome Dunze had a great game. Moore had a great game. They got some good running plays going, and they just seemed the team that everybody thought they were going to be last year. And they just put on a hell of a show and beat the Cowboys 31-14. And good on them because they needed something. Because if they were going to go 0-3, it was going to get a lot more harder for them going onwards from them. So good on them. I did have Dallas winning, and I lost that game, unfortunately. One of the few games I lost this week being on just a fluke of a game coming out of Dallas. So, once again, that tells me better than picking Dallas to win a game that they should win, because of course they're going to falter and something's going to happen that screws it all up. Next game was the Niners versus the Cardinals, and with the injury riddleness, I still thought they'd pull out some Niner magic with CMC. I picked San Francisco to win. And once again, that CMC San Francisco magic happens. And they just keep getting by chance luck by chance luck. It's crazy how they keep doing this. I'm putting most of it on CMC, but Mac Jones did come in and have a decent game. Oh yeah, Mac Jones did start week 2, I believe, too, and he had a very good game, playing better for San Francisco than he did for us for some weird reason. That always happens. I hate that team players leave here and play better. I do blame our old coaching staff and regime on that one. So hopefully this one is not any much the same as them, because I'm tired of that set that style going on in Jacksonville. So hopefully this new regime is a lot better. But yes, San Francisco pulled on another freaking lucky win, and they're 3-0. They beat the Cardinals by 16-15. I had San Francisco winning, and by God, thank God they won, because it got me a win on my predictions. Next game was Giants and Chiefs on Sunday night. I was very weird about this one, because I did not see the Chiefs going 0-3. Being the team that they are, they're too much of a winning style team. And I saw Russ play last week and figured he'd be able to build on that at all. I picked KC to win because I just didn't think they were going to go 0-3 and they were going to have too much of a chip on their shoulder from losing 2 games. They don't take that embarrassment well, and I feel like they were going to come out and play mean, play hard. And luckily I was right on that, because they came out and beat a very winnable game for the Giants, who just let it slip away in the second half of the game. Chiefs win 22-9. Russell gets benched, and Brian Daboll is in a very tough spot if Jackson Dart doesn't play well for him, and they seem to have nowhere to go. If that happens, I don't see it ending very well from Brian Daboll and probably the GM, and I see them probably getting fired if it doesn't work out for them. So hopefully Jackson Dart is the answer. Then we have the this past Monday night's game, Detroit versus Baltimore, and wow, what a game from Detroit! Having that defense just come out and ball out, put so much pressure on Lamar Jackson. Excuse me. Putting so much pressure on Lamar Jackson, having 7 sacks on Lamar is crazy work on a guy that can really escape the pocket and make plays like he does. Detroit figured it out. They figured out how to contain him. They figured out how to put pressure on Derrick Henry. That uh, amazing play by Aiden Hutchinson to secure a fumble recovery for Detroit and just flustered the hell out of Derrick Henry and finally put a chink in the armor of the Baltimore Ravens, who have just been a stellar team year after year. With this regime and the old one, with the old players and this new team of this new era, Baltimore has always seemed to be that team to beat in the AFC, and Detroit has come out and they have figured it out. You gotta contain Lamar, and if you can stop Derrick Henry, you have a great chance of winning. And they pulled out a 38-30 victory on top of that fumble recovery from Aiden Hutchinson. Aiden Hutchinson pulled it out, punched it out, and I forgot the team. There was another teammate that recovered it. I can't remember his name right now. But I had picked Detroit, and by the grace of God, Detroit got me the win. Thank you on that one. Hopefully, this doesn't show what Ravens are going to play like for the rest of the year, because I still feel like they're going to be the team to beat even after they lost two very winnable games in week 1 and week 3. So that was a very crazy week, especially on special teams. A couple games didn't go how anybody thought they would. For me, though, it was a great week. I improved from my week 2 score of 11-5, and I went 13-3 week 3, which is one of my best prediction weeks I've had since I've been doing pick'ems in the league since I was like my mid-20s. So hopefully week 4 goes just even better, and I can go 14-2 or something like that. Maybe I can go 16-0. We'll see, because who knows? This is the NFL. Any given Sunday is never what it seems to be, and we're gonna finally call week 4. I'm not gonna do too much extra talking. I'm just gonna do pretty much pick 'em. I got a couple minutes left. I'm gonna go and try to get through this fast. Make sure we're recording. Okay, we still are. And week 4, we begin. Let me get my page pulled up here. Get the week 4 schedule pulled up. All right. Starting out with a very mediocre Thursday night football game. We got the Seahawks, we got the Cardinals. Two very iffy teams that, on times they can be good, times they can be bad. Like I said, Sam Darnold had a hell of a year last year. So I'm just going to I see him being able to put more pressure on the Cardinals defense. That is not really the top of the league, not really the bottom of the league. They can get it done when they need to, but I just see Sam Darnold have more of a good time this week winning that game. So I'm picking Seattle. We got Sunday morning in Dublin at 9:30 a.m. Vikings versus Steelers. I'm picking the Pittsburgh Steelers on the fact that Rodgers is in. They still have a decent running game. They have two very good receivers, and I just feel like Carson Wentz is not going to be able to really put a show on back-to-back in weeks. So I'm taking the Steelers in this game. I'm taking Washington over Atlanta. I feel like Atlanta's got a lot of stuff to work out. The offensive line needs to be better at blocking, give Michael Penix some more time, and they could do better, but I still have Washington win this game. New Orleans Saints versus the Bills. I just feel like the Bills are gonna keep on winning. I took Buffalo. Saints are still gonna be struggling. It's probably gonna be a learning year for the Saints and Dennis Allen to find out if they need to pick another quarterback, trade for one, or figure out what they're gonna do because those two are not really working out in my case, in my opinion. Next game we got Detroit versus Cleveland. After beating Baltimore, even though it's an early week, I still see Dan Campbell hyping those guys up. I still see Detroit coming out with a win over the Browns, and the Browns are probably going to end up picking a new quarterback this week. I've seen some rumors it might be Shador. That could be right. That could be wrong. They could probably go with Dylan. We'll see if Shador is the answer, and they were right all along and should have never picked him so late. And next game we got Texans versus Titans. The battle of the bottom of the AFC South. I'm gonna go ahead and pick Houston. I actually picked Tennessee. I picked Tennessee. C.J. Stroud is having a little more time getting comfortable in the pocket. Tennessee, I think, finally come together and maybe it could be just rushing. Cam Ward probably can get a couple nice plays going. But I feel like since they got a new play caller, Brian and Callahan relieved his play calling duties, I see that it could be a chance for Cam Ward to finally get his first win. I'm going to take Tennessee in that one. Next game, we got Carolina versus New England. I don't see New England letting this one go. Stevenson had way too many fumbles last week. I don't see him doing that again. I feel like they're going to practice on that this week. Coming being able to have a very strong run game over a very iffy Carolina run defense, and I'm going to give this one to New England. Then we have Giants Chargers on Jackson Dart's first game, and like I've seen other places, I agree that they're just probably throwing him to the wolves in this game. Chargers have a stellar defense. Herbert is looking fantastic this year. I gotta give it the Chargers. I wish all the luck to Jackson Dart, but I just think this is probably a rough game to start him in. But I'm gonna give this one to the Chargers. Next game we got a very hard one. It took me a while to figure out who I wanted to pick. I had to sleep on it. Bucks versus the Eagles. After seeing the Eagles struggle last week and trying to pull out a win versus the Rams, and a Rams team that is very beatable for a team like the Eagles, I'm going to have to take the Buccaneers. I think they're going to pull out a shocker this week. You got Baker Mayfield, who's just an all-around MVP candidate in my eyes. And if the Eagles defense can't figure out a way to stop him and Ibuka from putting on big drives on him, it's going to be a rough day for the Eagles. So I'm taking the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Next game we got is Colts versus Rams. This is another one of those games that took me a while to figure out who I was going to pick. Daniel Jones and the Colts, Jonathan Taylor, Tyler Warren, they've all been a very hot streak today this season. This could be very lopsided either way. It depends on who can stop whose offense is really going to be the name of the game. I'm going to take the Rams just because Matthew Stafford is a more seasoned veteran. Puka is a very reliable receiver, and Kyrie Williams is a decent back who can keep the plays going on drives. And I feel like one or two mistakes on Indiana, and that could really seal the game for them. So I'm going to take the LA Rams. Next game, we got Jags versus Niners. Niners are just beaten up on injuries this season so far. And Jags are particularly healthy. They just need to get on the same page. We got Brian, BJT, and Hunter need to really step up, help out Parker Washington, help out Tootin and ETN. And if that can happen, Niners defense struggles a little bit. I can see the Jags pulling out this game. So it all depends on if they can get over that Niners defense and find a way to exploit those injuries they faced all this year so far. Next game, we got Chiefs-Ravens. Boy, what a game this is going to be. This is hard to tell because you got two teams that are Super Bowl caliber teams. neither one of them are going to lose for very long. For me, I have Baltimore because I just feel like the way they lost to Detroit, they're not going to let that happen again. And the Chiefs' defense has kind of not been able to stop the run very much. And if Pat uh, Worthy, Hollywood Brown, and Kelsey can't get on the same page, and they have games like they've been having, the Ravens can take advantage of that and just run all over them and make this a very lopsided game if the defense for the Chiefs doesn't step up and help out the offense like they've been struggling to do the past few weeks. So I definitely have Baltimore in that game. Next game we have Bears versus Raiders. This is one of those games that the Raiders could come out, do a little better this week. Gino has been struggled, but Carroll is a coach of very many years. He's a winning coach. He can get in the ear of Gino and Genty and really help them put up better courage in themselves, and they can get under them, hype them up a lot more, get a win for the Raiders. But I do still think Chicago is just got a better team. Um, Caleb and Rome are a good pair right now. They could do a lot better. DJ Moore is always a secondary receiver that they need to watch out for. So just that thing, Caleb being this more winnable quarterback, and the times that he's been able to win, I just feel like he can go off the hot streak of last week and pull out a win over the Raiders, who are trying to still figure out how to win themselves. And then we got Sunday night. We got the Cowboys and the Packers. We got Micah Parsons' revenge game. That Packers defense is really going to put the pressure on Dak, and CD's down now, so this is going to be a lot tougher on him. It's going to on who he's going to be able to throw to. I'm taking Green Bay on the fact that I feel like their defensive line and their secondary is just going to put a world of pressure on Dak and make him work for this game. I see this being a very one-sided game for the Cowboys, and after this week, the pressure is going to be really on Jerry Jones to make a decision on getting some more help for Dak if they struggle in receiving yards. I do like Williams and Blue on the running back, so they might have to switch over to do more of a strong run game, even though you got the Packers defensive line that is probably not going to allow that to happen very much. So I am taking Green Bay in this one. And then we got the Monday night games that are not very good to me, especially the Jets and the Dolphins. This is probably going to be a very low scoring game unless Tyrod comes out and just plays like he used to in Buffalo and has himself a decent game. Or if Miami can figure out finally who they are again, and Tyreek and Tua can finally get on the same page and get some big bombs down the field. This could go either way, honestly. Who's ever got the better offense and the more focused defense can get more pressure on the opposite team. I'm going to have to take Miami on just the fact that Tua and Tyreek can get a game going sometimes. So hopefully this is one of those games that they can. And for the last game, we got Denver versus Cincinnati. I'm going to take Denver, on the fact that Denver has a more capable team. Bo Nix, even though he hurt, can play a little bit better than I feel like Browning can, as being the Bengals second string quarterback. Hopefully, maybe they can get a little flash plays between him and Jamar Chase and some other receivers. Maybe they can have more of a running game. But the Broncos defense is pretty stout, so this is going to be tough on the Bengals to me. So I'm going to take Denver on this one. Sorry, I had to rush to that a little more. Running out of time. I still need to get this edited and out later on before the games start. So I thank you for listening to the whole spiel. I hopefully that we can do better than week 3, even though we were pretty great, except those 3 surprise games. So on that note, good luck to your team this week, and always, Duval, have a good day.